Hello, and welcome to our weekly LinkedIn Live leadership series, Voices of Leadership. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and the CEO and founder of E=Y. Each week, we explore the fascinating world of leadership, featuring voices from various generations, industries, backgrounds, and locations. And because what we believe is a team's job is to deliver the results. It's the leader's job is to help facilitate and make that happen. And there's a repeatable formula to making that happen. It's the E3 leadership code. Express the end vision, engage your people, execute with rhythm and structure, and lead with emotional qualities. But how a leader shows up is different. And that's why we love to learn about the people and their values and how they really lead. And that's the purpose of this session. So please let us know where you're calling in from. This is an opportunity for you to network with others as well, and ask questions. Jeff and I are absolutely ready to answer all your questions as we go along. But let me first introduce our guest today, because our guest really brings a rare mix of financial expertise and heart. Jeff Glick is the head of U.S. operations of Outsourced CFO, helping businesses move from founder-led operations to structured, scalable growth. His career spans Wall Street trading floors, CFO consulting, and mentoring the next generation of leaders. What I admire most about Jeff is his resilience. He's faced challenges, reinvented himself, and built a career grounded in connection and trust. For him, leadership isn't about perfection. It's about persistence and showing up for people in a way that makes them feel better. So, Jeff, you and I were talking before we came on, and you've had a long, really interesting career, and I didn't even do it justice. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got here today?
Thank you very much, Kathy. Really excited to be here and to give you a little insight of what I've been doing for the last umpteenth years. Uh, I grew up in the Bronx. I had a great education there. I went to the Bronx School of Science, really gave me a different view on life. I went to Binghamton University. I became an accounting major. I worked for two CPA firms. And I was a CPA for exactly 2 years. I got my license, and then somehow I landed at Merrill Lynch internal auditing in Stamford, Connecticut. There, it was different. I was working for a large corporation. They had a lot of policies, procedures, internal controls, very compliant driven. I liked it, and I just felt comfortable in that order. Then I went to work for Solomon Brothers, also in Connecticut. I was on their oil trading side, and they owned salt domes, pipelines, refineries, and I was a cost accountant. Um, I didn't like the job too much, but it was okay. And then I did one project for the right person. I figured out how to do hedging for their refineries, and I did a presentation to the members of the board of Solomon Brothers, and that really changed the course of my life. The CFO there had a rule: you do the work, you do the talking. So it gave me a chance to show management what I could do, my personality, and it also taught me a lesson that it's harder teaching somebody to present than to do it yourself. And I'm always very appreciative of that. I guess I did a really good job, because 2 weeks later I was on the trading floor doing hedging analysis, and that was part of our risk profile. And so I did that for about a year or so, learned a lot, met a lot of really good people, had a lot of responsibility at a very young age. It's attitude over aptitude. You could do it, people trust you. It's different. And they respected me. I was a little gritty. I didn't go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, where a lot of the others went to, but I did a good job, and it was great. After doing that for a while, they said, I know accounting, I know internal auditing, and I know how things function. Let's put Jeff on the M&A team. So I became a manager of mergers and acquisitions, traveled around the country, buying more assets for them, pipelines, um, oil tankers, refineries, tried to do a deal in Russia, tried to do a deal in Nigeria. I got my MBA on the road. It was amazing. Um, After doing that for about 4.5, 5 years, my wife and I had my first child. I didn't want to travel anymore because being home was really important to me. And they gave me a job on the trading floor again. I was the head of operations for precious metals and internal controls. Sorry, precious metals and foreign exchange. And then I did that for a while, and then it was great. I learned a lot, had a lot of responsibility, again, at a very young age. Um, and then I got tapped on the shoulder to join one of their joint ventures. We had a joint venture with the Russian Ministry of Finance at that time. So that was Yeltsin, Gorbachev, Perestroika, an amazing experience there. They wanted to leave, and so everybody knows all this was approved by the State Department. It was everything was legal and all that. And they wanted me to be their CFO because at that time we were selling 40% of the precious metals going into catalytic converters in the United States. So that was an amazing experience. We left Solomon Brothers with a checkbook basically, and we had to build the whole infrastructure for that. And the first thing I did was I hired Ernst & Young to be our auditors because people were saying, who are these guys? When we were part of Solomon Brothers, they trusted us. So we had to build trust in our ecosystem. And we sold metals through GM, Chrysler, Ford, Mitsubishi, Honda, everybody. We were one of the largest traders on the New York Mercantile Exchange and all that stuff. So everything had to be done right the first time. So when we started, I was 30 years old. We had about $500 million in sales. We got it up to $2 billion in about 16 years. So I had a great experience. I had great mentors there, either through Ernst & Young, inside of Almaz USA, in the industry. And it was just, I sucked it all up and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot of lessons as well. Like when I hired people, I had a couple of rules. One were no idiots, no assholes, and be prepared to do work above your pay grade and below your pay grade. And also, if you do the work, you do the talking. Have people trust you. Everybody says, my word is it, and that's how we believe. And then that was a great experience. I spent a lot of time with my kids. I was home early when I traveled. We traveled well. We had fun, but we had an important job to do. And then this guy Putin comes along, kind of messes things up a bit. And then I went to private equity for a while, and then I learned the whole deal being a private equity CFO, being a CCO, and being at Almaz just taught me I want to do things that are new, exciting, and grow them. So what else does someone do who lost 30-40% of the kids' college savings in the '08 debacle and they have a kid in college? I started my own business. So I started a company called Start You Up, where we were outsourced CFOs and compliance officers to startup and emerging managers. So that was VCs, private equity, hedge funds, family offices, some of their portfolio companies. I worked on 3 SPACs at the time. So I did that for about 13 years, and it was great. I worked out of a small office or in my basement. I had people working for me. I met a lot of people, and it was great. I have a deep and wide network of people. Then I was getting a little antsy, wanted to do something new, so I went into renewable energy. I did that for about a year or so, and then now I currently work for OCFO. They're outsourced CFO. They do outsourced bookkeeping, accounting, and CFO services. I'll give them a little plug. They've done 1,400 engagements in 12 years in 37 countries. They have a global footprint, and they have a lot of the same feelings I have about being, doing good work. The customer comes first, and that's where I'm at.
I love it, Jeff. I mean, just so much goodness in all of that you shared. And actually, we did put the link to OCFO in the chat for those that want to learn more about the business. And, one of our guests has said, I love that MBA. You shared MBA on the road. I think that's just absolutely fantastic. I heard you saying like one of your mantras of really making sure that it's attitude over aptitude, no ego, no asshole. So just a lot of goodness there. Did you realize, like, when I hear you tell that story, and I've heard it now a couple times, which I love, there's a real balance there between family and work and what you love and your family. Did you struggle finding that balance between the two as you were going through your career, or did you make it a priority?
I didn't really struggle because when I was traveling all the time, I had a very supportive wife. I didn't have children at that time, and that's why I cut off the road. When I went to work at Almaz for those years, they were very family orientated as well. Our markets ended at 2:30, 3 o'clock every day. So once the mercantile exchange closed, we didn't trade because we couldn't hedge our risks or change our hedges. And everybody does what they have to do. You balance, you can go home. So I was fortunate. I didn't have to make a choice. I did make a choice. Maybe I didn't go into Manhattan. Always worked in Fairfield County, 15, 20 minutes from where I lived. So I was very fortunate. I didn't have to make that choice.
Yeah, because I find today in this day and age, some people just assume busyness is a badge of honor and what they need to focus on. Whereas, it really is about doing the right job, right? Doing a good job is the most important.
Working smart is better than working hard. And, now it's even easier to work smart because of technology. Back when I was starting, we didn't have the internet. So, I mean, but things went slower then also. But there was no way to go home. You couldn't sit on a train and do work on your phone either. So it was different, but I was just very fortunate. I worked with really good people who were family orientated, and you'd get yelled at if you called in on vacation. Why are you
I love
calling?
it.
Yeah, so it was great. And I took that how I treated my staff. If you have something to take care of at home, take care of it. That's number one. And they were very, they hung around a lot. We had long-term employees, so it paid off in the long run.
Well, and that's we talk a lot about that in at Equals. Why it's about building trust, right? And when people feel comfortable, when they feel secure, when they know what you're doing, then they want to work harder, right? They want to, and to your point, not harder but smarter, but they want to engage, right? They want to be part of the journey with you, and they're not just doing the bare minimum.
Right. And you have to give them access to leadership skills, access to growing their career. I mean, we were a small, mid-sized company. We had, 15 to 20 people. So you can only go so high because I wasn't going anyplace. But you train them, you give them exposure to people. And if you're in an environment where someone's smart and they have an idea, you give them the tools, the access, and the resources to do something. So somebody might start as an accountant and end up as a trader, or somebody might start up as a trader and end up doing sales. You don't know, but everybody has to row at the same time, or you just go around in circles. And another really important thing I learned, which was really important to building a network, when someone would give me a call and say, I'm trying to sell you something, I would tell them, listen, I'm not going to buy from you, but you could come in. because I know that they got 2 check marks on their scorecard because they came in to see me. And then over the years, it was invaluable to build my network because I met all these people in their 20s and 30s, and now they're ancient almost, but I've known them for 20 years plus. And that's what I tell people. I mentor young people, and I tell them the most important thing is go out and network, shake hands and kiss babies, because people want to deal with people who they like and respect. And I think that that's critical. Yes, you have to be smart. You have to know the information. You have to know the industry, but people want to work with people who they know, like, and respect. And it's hard to build
I
that.
No, I agree. And I mean, quite honestly, you and I, Jeff, right? We just, we never can remember how we got introduced or whatever. We're like, yep, let's just get on a call and get to know each other. And it is so interesting when you start to meet new people and talk. You never know where things are going to go. And, it's relationships and building that. So we were talking about evolution, right? I started my career as a CPA as well. I was at it was Big Six at the time.
Okay.
And, you were talking about how things, not everyone stays in those careers all the time. You end up in a lot of different places. But let's talk about the CFO role for a second here, because how do you see the CFO role evolving? Because you've seen it from, years ago to today, and now you're really working with a lot of different businesses.
Mhm.
So how is it changing? Because I think it's less about being a financial gatekeeper at this point, right?
Uh, well, I think that's the bottom line. You are the last bastion of control. You are the adult in the room, because when you're signing documents as the CFO, you're responsible. So, yes, you are doing the not very sexy and boring stuff, but however, on top of all that, you are now a trusted advisor to management, the board, and the cap table, because information is so improved over the years. You can get information faster, more accurate, and it could be really strategic. So if you could sit down with somebody and say, "This is what's going on in your company," it to them, it's sometimes it could be mind blowing to them. I mean, like, if you look at most small, mid-sized businesses, they're usually owned by a founder, and that founder has some very specific core competencies. They don't know what they don't know about a lot of other things, and they're hiring people based on trust, that this, Sally, Joe, Bobby, Mary is going to do marketing for me. Jeff is going to be my CFO, so he's going to be the gatekeeper, make sure I have cash to pay, payroll next week and all that stuff. But if they've been in business for 5 to 10 years and they haven't, let's say, elevated the professional level of their finance staff, that they're not getting any new information, and they might not want to upset the apple cart, or whatever, but there's a lot of information you could get now with the new technology that can really change the way you manage your business. And especially, I always use this example. If it's a second or third generation business, grandma, grandpa founded the business, brother and the sister took it over. They really did a great job. They have a great lifestyle. There's enough money to live 2 great family lives, nice vacations, nice cars, expensive schools, all that. But now you have 3, 6, 8 nephews and nieces who want to go into the business. They're all cousins, and there's not enough money to go around for all those people to have that lifestyle. So you have to think, how am I going to improve the business? If you want to grow, maybe you acquire something. However, if you're not bankable, if you can't do the financial operations properly, no bank is going to give you money. No VC firm or private equity firm is going to come in and give you. They might help you, but they won't get the valuation, and then you have to give away more shares or more percentage of the company than you want. So it's just a way of thinking of just getting the company to think strategic and not just do what they've been doing. And it's hard.
Well, and that's really what it is. It's moving from, okay, we're doing the accounting, to a CFO is really there to be the advisor, right? And that strategic advisor of where are you going? Why are you doing it? It's being a leader to the CFO and bringing that financial aspect to the table that they may not have always thought about.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're been around a while, or you're a good networker, you can introduce them to people who can change their trajectory of their business, or they might learn, I've done a really good job. Let's just keep it the way it is. And maybe it's just that nice family business where we all live comfortably and happily ever after. Depends what you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for someone that started her career as a CPA, numbers have always been a big part of who I am. So I take it for granted some days. But I was just doing a session a couple of days ago with some senior executives, and we were doing how to put a business case together in ROI. And they didn't grasp all of the key financial data that are so important, truly understanding what net income is, what is EBITDA, what's the valuation of the companies, the ROIs. And it's something that I think every executive needs to know, those basics. But that's where the CFO comes in, because that's what they excel in, is really understanding what that means for the business and how to grow the business.
Well, and the other thing also is, there are certain CFOs that are strategic, and there are certain CFOs that are operational.
Good point.
So you need to have that balance. And if you're looking for a leader or somebody, it depends what they're leading on. If you have problems, in your operations, you need someone to dig in with cost accounting, and that's great. But if you need someone to say, okay, I want to grow, how am I going to get there? How am I going to do this type of transaction? I have to go to an investment banker. Maybe I have to go to a sell side banker, or for due diligence. And due diligence is hard, especially if it's sell side. And for those who don't know, sell side means you're doing your own colonoscopy on yourself, basically, because you're digging in to make sure that your accounting, and I'm sorry to be boring, but accounting has to be timely, accurate, and consistent, because you want to know if you have a problem 5 days before it happens, not 30 days or 60 days after it happens.
Yep. I love it. And so as you've helped companies really grow, right, from that founder-led mentality to professionally managed and growth, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned, and how do you coach CEOs to think about it, or founders?
People don't like change. They're nervous, and they view a lot of the accounting as an expense, accounting and finance as an expense, not as an investment. You have to really tell them, listen, you want to sell your business, you think hypothetically it's worth 10 times EBITDA, hypothetically, just throwing that out. Maybe they got some guy at the yacht club, or the club told them that, and oh yeah. And so, but after they do the analysis on your company, they might give you 6x. And if your EBITDA is $5 million a year, and so it's a good business. However, they're giving you a discount of 4x, because half of it is because your accounting and your finance, there's no policies, procedures, internal controls. It's not timely, accurate, consistent. For some reason, they haven't figured it out that your tax returns don't agree to your internal books, and there's no bridge between the two of them. How are you going to do that? And so if you spend, hypothetically, let's say $100,000, right, or $200,000, it's 100,000. It's easier math, and you can get 1x more. That's a 50x return.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that it doesn't always work out that well, but it could. But it's an investment, and if you're going to keep the company, you can now manage the business better because it's timely, accurate, consistent. Plus, also, you have strategic reporting. A lot of small, mid-sized businesses, the owner's proud that he knows what his margin is. But let's say it's 50% margin, hypothetically. But some are at 75, some engagements 75, some are 25.
It's a big swing.
Why do we have that swing? Well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
we should stop doing business with the people who are giving us the 25, preserve cash, maybe pay down some of our bank loans, or maybe say, oh, that 25, let's just charge them more. Or maybe the salesperson is giving away the house, or maybe it's the people who are managing that transaction or that engagement, or maybe we have no idea how to account for overhead and materials. So it
That,
opens up a
that
lot of, and they start sweating and they start, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
but I like how you're approaching. That's a perfect example, right, of how many different options there are if your gross margin is different, and having that sounding board of someone that you can talk to and think about it and the experience, right? So, when you're bringing so much experience to the table of what you've seen work, not work. Have you thought about this? Because no, there's not one way. Just kind of like leadership is, right? As a CFO, there's no one right way. You got to get everything right operationally, but the strategic side, are there some different options for you and how you move forward?
and the hardest thing for them is I have this family of people who work for me. Do I want to disrupt them? That's a whole nother problem. People are doing a good job. They think, I don't know. I've had the business for 10 years. It's okay. I get the same information. My, and not to talk bad about, but like their bookkeeper becomes their accountant, who becomes their controller. They're giving them the same information that they've been giving them for 10 years. It's not that
Yep.
they're bad. They haven't had the training, the exposure, or maybe they should start sending those people out to conferences, signing them up for online stuff. I mean, there are ways to elevate your staff to get them to think strategically.
Yeah. I love as you talked through this, and I'm often talking about leadership is a balance, right? You need to be strategic and you need to be tactical. You need to be able to, get things done, but also care about the people, right? Like it's all about balance, and the CFO role is really that balance too, of making sure you called it. What did you? The timely, accurate. Um,
Timely, accurate, consistent.
there we go. Absolutely, and that's a baseline, right? You
I've
got to
only
make
said
sure
that
every
10
company
times.
is
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yep, I love it. And then it's the strategic layering on top. Those are opposites in a lot of ways, but that's where the power is when you have both. Because if you have too much of one or too much of the other, you're not going to be successful.
Like I said, I didn't say it's easy to change people. It's hard, but if you don't have the tools or the knowledge, you don't know what could be next.
Yeah.
And
I
if you want to sell, like a lot of companies, it's a window manufacturer or a window company, and there's a lot of private equity that are rolling up these companies,
mhm.
and they're rolling it up for various reasons. But if you're in that industry, you want to maximize that buyout, or so that they pay you out day one, or they'll say, well, it's not really worth that, but this is what we'll do. And we'll give you a buyout if you work here for 5 years and you hit these numbers.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yep.
I just want my cash. I don't want to be an employee. So I don't know. It's it's hard. It's not that easy. I talk about it. It's easy, but it's hard to sit down with an owner and they're like, "Oh crap! Now I have to change everything," or "I don't know what I have to change. Let me think about it." And they think about it and they still can't decide.
Yeah, I mean, as one of our audience members said, change is never easy, but there's a process to follow through, right? And it's the only constant is change, right? And once we get comfortable with it and learning what that process is of how to methodically address it, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, we are at the bottom of the
Oh,
hour.
I'm
These
sorry.
things, no, it's good. This is these are great conversations. But what I would love, because I mean, you really have so much information to share. You've been coaching the younger generation, just to
My
help.
kids hate when you say coaching the younger generation, because that gives me the ability and the approval to keep telling them what to do.
Well, I think you have the experience. It's okay.
They don't care. I'm their father. It's okay.
All right, fair enough. But I bet you they teach you a lot of things too to help you evolve and grow.
Probably, yeah, but I won't admit it.
What
God
advice do you
forbid. God
have
forbid.
then?
I give them a compliment. Yeah.
Fair enough. So, like taking your kids out for a second, what
Right.
advice do you have for younger professionals that are stepping into their first real roles?
Your most important role is to make your boss look better. Keep your mouth shut. But if you have something intelligent to say that's going to add value to the conversation, speak up. You have to mark your words, because they're seeing you. You're out of college right out of college or a year or two. You're young. You're learning. You can still add value. Like I would always tell people, if you have if you're looking at something and it doesn't look right, speak up, because it could be there for years and they just keep doing it, because especially in accounting it's rote. Oh yeah, that's the way we always do it. But if it doesn't look right, you should raise your hand. And it might be right, but you could learn. But
Hmm.
that's another good. And being nice, be polite, because people like working with people that they like. And if you're out at a social event, don't drink a lot. It's work. I like I worked in Wall Street during the bad times, and everybody was always one person who got fired after the Christmas party. So it's work.
Yeah, we had a few of those in tech as well in the big conferences. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
what happened last night? So
yeah.
I
Where'd he go?
agree.
Oh, he's not here anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, you have so many valuable insights, and I love like the advice you just gave to the younger generation. And then on the other side of it, you started the conversation today of talking about that boss that changed your life
Yep.
because he pushed you. If you're doing the work, then you're doing the talking. And that's the balance when we can pull out the younger generation what they do have as capabilities. That's how we grow as companies and as people, and there's so much value there.
Yeah, I agree. This was great. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. It was fun trying to look back at what I've done over the last couple of years, and it was fun. Thank you very much, Kathy. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeff. And if you want to learn more about outsourced CFOs, we have the link in the chat.
Mhm.
It's a great opportunity if you're not ready to bring someone on full time, but still bringing in that tactical and strategic elements into your business. So reach out to Jeff to learn more. And if you want to learn more about how to be a balanced leader as well, reach out. We're having a session next week around how to bring civility into the workplace and make sure that's not creating friction in your businesses. And we also are getting ready to launch our next boot camp in a few months. So Imelda has put some links in the chat as well, but hope you all have a great weekend. Jeff, thanks again.
Take care.
And we'll see you all soon.
All right,
Take
take care.
care.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.